Welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and you're watching us on the Conscious Awakening Network. If you haven't already signed up to be on our mailing list, please do so because we have some exciting things coming up. You can check us out on consciousawakening.org. And I do want to remind you that we have a new membership and an affiliate program that will be launching, as well as all of our exclusive content on 10/10 at 10 a.m. So you got to check it out. See our new look, see the new feel of the site. We're super excited about it. And we want you guys to join us. If you're interested in becoming an affiliate, just shoot me an email, Sheila at SheilaSeppi.com, SHEILA at SHEILA.com. Let me know that you're interested, and I'll tell you how you can sign up, because you will be able to receive 30% of everything that comes in associated with your affiliate link. So we look forward to having you as part of our family. Speaking of part of our family, be sure to catch our replays on YouTube, or you can watch us on your favorite channel of Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, Android TV. And tomorrow, you'll be able to listen to us on all your favorite podcasting locations like Spotify, Google, Android, etc. So much for my commercial. Check us out. We hope to have you join us. We launch 10/10 at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Now, this month, my co-host is Dr. Joan, and she's more commonly known as Joan of Angels. She's a spiritual visionary. She does soul portraits. She's an intuitive guide. She's a mentor, and she specializes in helping people to align with their soul purpose. She also has a very deep connection with the angelic realm, and she combines her intuitive abilities with her expertise in personal transformation and healing to help you be the best that you can be. Now, she also is recognized for her work in energy healing, and she channels, she's a motivational speaker, and she helps people to awaken their inner gifts and to step into their true potential. But I bet you didn't know this. Dr. Joan is also an esoteric chiropractor. So, Joan, we'll have you to tell everybody a little bit about what that is. And she's helping people to identify the blockages in their bodies and the emotions that bind those emotions to the body. Now, you can also find Joan on her own YouTube channel. She's a host of workshops. She has many online programs and courses. She offers speaking engagements, and she helps to spread her message of love, healing, and divine alignment. So we're very excited to have Joan here. She's going to be my co-host all month. So Joan, welcome.
I am very excited to be here, Sheila. I love that intro. I wish I knew that person. No, I love the intro, but I love being here on Cosmic Conversations, and it's been a while, so I'm delighted to be back.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Now, we had an oddity to come up because of the wonderful hurricane that's taking place right now down in Florida. Our speaker is not able to join us, but she will be here, Victoria Reynolds. She will be here next Monday to join us. And so you'll not be missing her at all. She'll be here next week. So Joan and I thought we would take this opportunity to kind of talk with you guys a little bit about, really what's going on planetary wise. We're going to talk about some timelines. We're going to talk about the multidimensionality of this planet. We're going to talk about parallel lives. But before we do that, Joan, why don't you tell people a little bit about your ability to be an esoteric chiropractor?
Isn't that funny? So it's really, people are getting very, very interested in what is an esoteric chiropractor. And so I guess I should start by the fact that I've been a chiropractor for over 40 years. And much of my work has always been about healing, helping your body turn on its healing power from the inside out. So all healing, that's true healing, comes from inside out. Okay, I'm hearing I need to talk a little bit about what chiropractic really, it truly is in its essence. And chiropractic, and the true art form of chiropractic, is really about opening up from innate intelligence and allowing the energy and the vibration from innate intelligence going through your crown, going through your neck, your brainstem, waking it up, activating it, and then going through all parts of your body to every cell, every tissue and organ, waking it up. And so true healing then comes from source coming through you as you open up all the channels and allow this healing to happen. And so esoteric chiropractic, and the way I'm practicing it, it's a combination of doing soul essence work, doing readings and sessions for you, along with feeling and the energy of your body, feeling where you're out of alignment and running energy through you and basically turning on that master switch that you have from your innate intelligence through your brain and brainstem, and literally turning on that, I call it the miracle mastery switch that is in your body. And when we turn on that switch, it allows your body to raise its vibrational frequency, to come back into balance. It's kind of like an adaptogen that goes to where your body needs it the most healing. And so I've learned to combine body, mind, and soul alignment, basically, tuning up you up in all ways for healing. And the results have been really interesting. They've been very phenomenal. I've just started working with people, getting really good results, especially in terms of releasing the energy just vibrationally as well. But when you work with your emotions, so like if you've ever read Louise Hayes talks about how your mind impacts your health and wellness. And in particular, say low back pain, if anyone has experienced low back pain, there is an emotional component in it. There's an emotional component to liver, gallbladder pain. If you can understand that trigger, whether it be anger or fear or lack, and you release that as well as the physical stuckness, your body will start to raise its vibration and start to go into a state of well-being and health. And that's how I do my esoteric chiropractic. I can do it in person, and I can also do it on Zoom. I've been training to do it on Zoom with you as well. So that's what I do, Sheila. It's very exciting, actually, because after all this time, I went from being Dr. Joan chiropractor to suddenly Joan of Angels artist, and now they've come together, and that feels even more integrated, that I can truly offer a combination of both. And also, we do a lot of nutrition. I have some gifts as a medical medium occasionally with what's going on. I can pinpoint it and ask your body what it needs. And therefore, we can really get you lined up.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that because I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with that.
No
So
one's ever done it. No, it's a new, I don't see anyone else doing it online. I did look up esoteric chiropractic, and they're not doing it, but I'm doing it. So
awesome. So you heard it right here first, folks. Give Dr. Joan a call for your
I
esoteric chiropractic.
should go viral because it's new. It's new. And actually, I'm going to look and see if there is a definition for esoteric chiropractic.
That'd be awesome.
Just to
Yeah,
check.
that'll be great. So since Victoria's not here tonight, I thought we would just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on because I know with a lot of the clients that come to see me, they come
Mhm.
in with a lot of questions, if you want to look at it that way. They come in with a lot of questions about really what's happening on the planet. They hear about all these solar flares and everything. But I thought I would just address that real quick with people because we are in this major solar cycle. We're in I think they call it the solar maximus. And
Mhm.
what's happening about every, I think it's 11 to 12 years, we end up having a total pole shift within our sun. And that's where we are right now. The thing about this is one of the issues that we're having with this particular solar flare is the electromagnetic shield of our planet is very weak. And so when that happens, then we end up bringing in more and more solar radiation. However, that solar radiation is also full. I mean, packed full of all these juicy light codes that are coming in. Now, some of us, when we receive the light codes, we're like, bring it on, baby. And others are like, no, I can't stand any more upgrades. I can't do it. And then other people actually end up getting sick. And so when you see these things happening, a lot of people are coming in and they're talking to me about, I've got this symptom and that symptom. And, I do my little thing. And it's like, you know what? I think it's solar flares. I think, and if you are having all this energy right now, or if you're like super drained, go to the internet, do your own research and check it out. Okay. So solar flares, I think it's the solar maximum. Now, I don't know how soon it'll be for this pole to shift on the sun, but it happens like every 11 or 12 years. Okay. So it's nothing really to freak out about, but it is something to be aware about. So if you start having some of these symptoms, then you're going to know what's happening. But another cool thing I personally believe is it's helping to feed in to the current trajectory that we have as a human species, embracing those multidimensional aspects of ourselves because we are moving into higher and higher and higher timelines. Joan, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm really glad you're talking about the solar flares. The last few days, I have actually been tired in the middle of the day and laid down, which I never do. I just, I'm a manifesting generator who goes, goes, goes. The idea that I would lay down in the middle of the day is baffling to me. And I have been thinking about those solar flares. And yes, we're on a very fast-paced timeline right now. People are
Yeah,
waking
we
up.
are.
And we're in what I call the in-between zone. Like we're in between one state and another, or we're in between getting ready for a hurricane and the hurricane, like we're getting ready for an election. Everything is in between zone right now, which also causes a lot of anxiety and
Right.
angst for people, because as a human species, we like to see a timeline we can understand. Like,
Yeah.
okay, today, tomorrow, the day after, and tell me what's going to happen. And our timelines seem to be all over the place, almost as if they go back and forth between the dark one and the light one, and they hit up against each other. And it's actually very confusing unless you're aware that of what is really going on, I think.
Right, right. I think you're exactly right. And, it's just like with the Mandela effect that when Nelson Mandela was in, or Mandela, sorry, was in prison, many of us remember that he died in prison. We
Yes, I
remember
remember he
watching
died.
that. I do too. But I also remember that he got out. And I remember when he died this second time, I was like, wait a minute. I must be crazy. I thought he died in prison, you know? And so that is a phenomenon about the Mandela effect that has been happening with more and more things. And a lot of people are talking about, I remember this, and the other person is saying,
Right.
I remember that.
I
So
think
what's
it's
happening, yeah, is these timelines are starting to split, but they're also starting to come together.
I think for me, I first found out about it when we talked about the fruit of the loom label. And I can tell you, I mean, there's a couple of key things that they referred to the Mandela effect. And one is the fruit of the loom label, that I remember that there was fruit in it. And
Yeah,
now the label is completely different. And that they're allowed to change their brand, but
of
it's when they
course.
say that they never changed it. And so that
Oh,
makes you feel crazy.
hmm.
But like me, you remember something that was there 20 or 30 years ago, and suddenly they said, no, that was never. And I think it's also the Berenstein Bears. The spelling
Hmm.
name of the Berenstein
Yes.
Bears is also, and what it does is it really does screw up our brain. It has a very weird effect because they're questioning something we've known or believed in and saw forever and pretending it's new again.
Right.
Wrong.
Absolutely.
And and I don't know about you, but I find that disconcerting. I find it disconcerting. And I understand that, yes, that there are many timelines converging and coming together, and we're unfolding into a higher plane, but still it is very difficult, Sheila, to conceptualize. So
It
in
is.
thinking about the timelines, okay, again, when we talk about timelines, suddenly we're seeing it like it's a horizontal line, right? And that's not the way time even works.
Mm-mm. No. Really, with my collective and stuff, one of the things that we see is time is kind of like, the figure eight or the infinity loop. We call it the golden infinity. And everything comes around, goes around. We are a reflection of everything, but we're only one of many, many, many universes. But let me circle back real quick to the Mandela effect, because one of the things that this really is evidence is of, like, this fluidity of the reality of how malleable time really is. And some interpret this as, the shifting of the timelines or the parallel realities. This is where all these different events from different dimensions and alternative histories begin to bleed in to this one timeline. Now, I heard somebody, they were talking about a QHHT session, and they had heard someone speak about the fact that there are three major timelines right now, which I found to be interesting. One of the timelines is everybody ascends, we have new earth, life is good. The second one is some people ascend, but others do not, and the planet just crashes and burns. And then the other one is there's a total splitting of the timelines. Well, I kind of believe that we are in this total splitting of the timelines, but they also have to come back. So we know that we live in a multitude of dimensions and densities and parallel realities every single day. And we are all of those because we are a concept in the mind of source energy. And when we're a concept in the mind, we are part of everything. So right now, you may be having this three-dimensional experience on this third density planet where everything is solid, but you also are having a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth, a ninth dimensional timeline experience in a different dimension, in a different density. And so, we have all of these dimensions and densities running, and then we also have all of these parallel realities that are kind of stacking on top of each other. And so this concept really aligns more with it's like the idea in quantum physics where the observer's consciousness begins to influence the outcome of the
Right.
events. So it suggests that reality is not truly fixed, but that we are co-creators, and things are always subject to change depending on what we're thinking about and where we put our attention.
You are so accurate. I'm really glad that you actually mentioned that, because we are what we think.
We
We
are.
are the thoughts that we put out into the universe, and we put them out solely as an individual, but we also put them out collectively.
Yeah.
So that means that if we all collectively tonight saw that this hurricane blows south of Florida, but we can. So last night I went to a party, and it was a great little party. It was a Brazilian baby shower, and it was starting to rain. So we got on, a few of us got under, one of the covers, and I started just doing a mantra. I see sun, I see sun, I see sun. We are having fun in the sun, fun in the sun. It is sun. And I see sun. Now I did that when I learned to firewalk. I saw snow and it worked. So I'm going, I see snow, I see sun, I see sun. And within about 15 or 20 minutes, literally, it had turned to sun, and we never saw rain again. And would it have happened if I, wasn't out there chanting, I see sun? I don't know, but it did happen. And that can happen when collectively we put our intentions together. And so even on a show like this, or when we're all collaborating with our friends, if we all put our intentions on it, we can even disperse the chemtrails above us.
Mhm.
One day with Neil 2 years ago, I managed to keep the flies away from the table. Because I created a portal and a vortex, and until I stopped thinking about it, of course, then they attacked. But as I held that energy, so it's something we can all do, and we can, and it's a good thing to do, because actually, that means that the future is a void until you put your thoughts into it. And if you say, I'm going to have a crappy day today, you are going to get that crappy day, because it's a vacuum waiting to give
Right.
you back what you want. And if enough of you are out there going, we want a crappy day, we get those crappy days. So it's really clear that our thoughts and our intentions determine the outcome of the human timeline here on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's huge, guys. That's huge. That means we're not slaves. We're not stuck. We're not subject to them telling us what to do. We, with our consciousness, can change what's going on here for us, but we have to make that decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Ah,
totally agree with that. I mean, it's so important to always be mindful of what you're thinking about. Always, because we are co-creators of our own reality. We are manifestors. And so each and every one of us also has to remember we have that divine spark of source within us. Therefore, we can create, we can shift, we can call in every morning our highest divine timeline and operate in it. One of the things that I do before I get out of bed every morning is I call the Christ consciousness in my light. I expand it out into the auric field. I send it down to the center of the earth, wrap it around that core. I send it up, open it up so that I can receive all the information that I need for the day, and I operate that way. And, for me, doing something just that simple will shift my morning. And if I haven't done that, then usually I'm like, what the heck is going on? Oh, yeah, I forgot to turn it on this morning. And that's really the way I look at it, is I'm kind of turning it on because I'm setting the intention for the entire day that we have, and so it's like I'm thinking about, this is what it's going to look like in the office. This is what, all my phone calls are going to be. So I envision, of course, I got a 45-minute drive to the office. So I have plenty of time to envision that every morning before I get to work. And just the little things. So if you're trying to bring something into your life, think about it 3 times in the morning and just tell yourself, I'm calling in only those things that meet and exceed my expectations.
right.
And that way you're leaving it open to the universe, because a lot of times when people are working on manifestation, they're like, things have to show up this way. Things have to show up that way, because we get attached to those outcomes. And when we are saying we want to call in those things that will meet and exceed our expectations, then we're kind of giving, our guides a little bit of wiggle room and the universe to be able to create what it is that we really do want to call in.
That's when miracles happen. That's
Absolutely.
that's power of synchronicity, the power of catching that miracle wave happens, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
We allow the universe to actually give us what we're asking for. And that even in that process of allowing the universe to give us what we're asking for, tells us that half the time we're keeping it away. We're keeping
Yeah.
it at bay. We're not being open to it coming in and doing the healing that we really need. We're not being aligned properly. It reminds me of like you have your head here, but your spine's over here, so it can't like even connect.
Yeah.
That means you can't even think straight.
Right.
So one of the things that I started doing in 2020, when that whole thing went down in 2020, of which we're still recovering from, that was a collective trauma that has not been healed. It's not even talked about as a collective trauma. But I would walk in the supermarket and I would hum. Now, I hummed for several reasons. I hummed because I didn't want to breathe anyone else's air, just breathing my own. I hummed because it brought calmness to me. I
Mhm.
hummed because it really it made me realize that I am in a bubble and I'm in a protected bubble. Nothing can harm me. And,
Right.
I really loved the feeling on my throat, and it opened up, it did something to open me up more.
Yeah.
And I don't know the science behind it, but I will tell you all, if you go out into crowded places, now for me as an empath, I don't like crowded places. I can feel the energies. I don't want to be among crowds. It drains me. But
Right.
when I hold my own space and center with my humming, also with wing fluffing that I do, you can really feel like you're in a bubble, even if you're in the mall at Christmas.
Yeah, and that is very important. Talking about creating your own bubble of protection. You know, the reality of it is we're all just one and we're all connected. And because we're connected, what my the group that brought in, I call them my healing team, that brought in the soul reconnection technique, they were showing how we have these ley lines that run starting at the bottom, going all the way up through every body that we have, including the physical body, and out. And if we do not have a strong shield, if we do not have clear auras, if we do not have a practice where we're releasing everything, because most everybody on here is empathic. So if we're not letting that go, if we're not clearing it, it can get stuck in those ley lines. And those ley lines are just data streams of information that's coming into us. And then it gets stuck in our holographic field. And then it can begin to permeate into the physical body. And like Joan was talking about, illness having those emotional components, it brings what's out here all the way in. So having and fortifying, our own shield on a daily basis, or even, creating, I used to work with a Mari lady forever, and she would say, darling, just create your purple bubble, and so I would create the purple bubble and I would always keep it around me all the time. And, it is our intention that's creating these things. Again, going back to our co creative power. If I intend this purple bubble around me and I fill this bubble with light and the Christ consciousness, for me, that helps to protect me. Now, a lot of people, they still will pick things up throughout the day. So, the more you can fortify your own personal shield, the more you can release the things that get stuck in there, the stronger your shield can become over time.
Yeah, that's absolutely very, very important. And it is interesting. We're in October now. When we get into January, then we go into 2025, 5, 6, and that's a 9-year. And that's when tremendous amount of releasing is going to happen. And it is very interesting because it's like a releasing of what happened in 2016.
Right.
So the same kind of energy patterns and cycles that you might have experienced in 2016 is what's going to come around again for 2025. And Sheila, I have been finding it amazing to find cycles in the timelines that recur. So for instance, the pandemic that we had in 2020 is actually the same pandemic that we had in the late 1800s, early 1900s with the flu epidemic. And the treatments were the same. They they created the vaccines and they created the masks, and millions of people died, even though they've hidden that truth. And suddenly it happened again. Now, how does that happen? That time itself repeats itself again.
Right.
We know
Right.
that it could do it every 9 years if you're into numerology, but every 100 years, it even looks like it's happening
Right.
on the planet, and we're rebooting. But
Absolutely.
this timeline going into 2030 is a very important timeline because that is the culmination of this ascension timeline that they've talked about for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to bring in the new earth, and that, depending on which theory you're working with, but many of us will ascend, and the earth itself will ascend, and there will be a timeline split for those who can't raise that vibratory frequency. So it's a perfect time to really start walking a positive path.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is, we always talk about disclosure on these types of shows.
Right.
And, they are talking, and I think Bashar gave um, somewhere between 2027 and 2030 that there have been some talk about that face-to-face encounters. Now, a lot of you out there watching this, and a lot of people in the audience, and a lot of people listening have already had those types of contacts. The first type of contact, of course, is in dream time. But a lot of people are having the one-on-one face-to-face, or they're having real-time experiences where they're actually being taken up into the craft and having all of these really, I think that a lot of it has to do with the downloads that they're receiving.
And they're remembering.
Yeah, and they're remembering that. And I think that's important, because I think this is nothing new. And anything that's happening right now, just like we're talking about these cycles of time, there's absolutely nothing new that's going on. But what is new is that people are remembering, and people feel more comfortable about sharing everything.
And, it's interesting, but disclosure has happened upon the planet before. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
go back in the 1800s, you see certain old paintings where you see ships in the sky. Someone had to have seen those ships, for them to be in this artwork from the 1800s, the 1700s, the 1600s. And so art has been a way that much of this has also been revealed.
Right. Yeah. Well, even the theological societies in the 1800s were talking about disclosure, and they were talking about ascension, and they were talking about the importance of really the ascension of bringing everything in and anchoring it into the body. And so, there's nothing new. Really, there's not. And especially because, I really believe more and more about this infinity loop theory. I'm going to have to look it up and see if there is a theory about that. But
There's an
as I
infinity
see,
loop theory.
yeah, I'm going to call it the infinity loop theory. If it's not,
By Sheila Seppi.
I'm going to write it.
You can be the first
Because
one, it's like, okay, esoteric, we've revealed esoteric chiropractic tonight
there you
and
go.
the infinity loop.
There you go. The infinity
Yeah.
loop theory, where everything comes back in on itself. But,
Yeah.
there's so much that's going on right now, and there's so much that's happening that really, a lot of people are feeling more comfortable about speaking about it, but also a lot of people are just systematically starting to wake up. They've not yet found their voices, but they are starting to wake up. The
Notice.
questions are coming.
Yeah. So to me, I feel like we live in a planet that we actually don't know the truth about. We have been lied to about the history of the planet. We've been lied to about the actual timeline of the planet. Like, what year is it really? And you got to think about it. It's like setting an arbitrary time. We actually don't know the truth because they've changed our timeline, they've changed our history, they've changed the buildings, they've changed the book so that it reflects what they think. And then suddenly you pick up, you look at old photographs and you see that there were giants walking down the street next to a 6 foot tall person, and there's an 8 foot tall. Suddenly you're looking at buildings and you're seeing these big archways. And who in the world could have actually been tall enough, because the gate handle is like up there, not down here. And slowly but surely, I feel like that the fact that the emperor has no clothes, people are beginning to see, like so many. And I study this a lot. I love studying rocks and faces in the rocks. And you see rocks that with a giant turtle that was fossilized, or a giant hand and we're talking about a 20-foot hand, not my hand. They even have books that only a giant could be reading. And so instead of dismissing things that seem like that couldn't be, it's me, it's, that's not true, or you dismiss it, it's really time to take the thread and go, what am I noticing? What am I noticing? because that's how you break free of the matrix, when you start to notice
Mhm.
that there's been something done, like something's missing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's been very fascinating. I find that extremely fascinating. And when I think of disclosure, I think, well, let's disclose not just the presence of extraterrestrials. Let's disclose the presence of extraterrestrial blood in my blood. Let's disclose what happened. What are these repeating cycles we're getting? And why is it that we actually don't have accurate time? And they're
Right.
always confusing us. The calendar is a confusion.
Yeah.
We should have steady weeks, everything should be organized, and it's not. And it all causes confusion. It all causes, like the same thing with the music being the wrong frequency. It causes upset harmony in your body so subtly that you don't know why you're not feeling right, but it's in the air and the energy,
Mhm.
chemtrails. So there's so much that needs to be disclosed.
Right. Including things that
Not
are going
limited to.
on, things are going on in DC, things that
Yes.
are going on in the hospitals, things that are going on everywhere. Honestly, when they talk about, we don't think that the people are ready for disclosure.
I get so
No,
mad.
they don't want
Oh
to
my
open the can of worms. That's what it is.
I
They
get
do
so
not want
mad.
to open that.
If they say it anymore, like the people aren't ready for it. I think I want to
Right.
shoot someone, and I'm not a violent person. But talk about disclosure, talk about these hurricanes.
Yeah.
Okay. The massive hurricane that occurred last week or 2 weeks ago. And thank God that I evacuated out of where I was, because those properties are destroyed,
Mhm.
3 feet of water. And now they've evacuated again because they're expecting 6 or 12 feet. There's a deliberate destruction that is going on,
Yeah.
because what happened in the mountains, because you're a mountain girl, you don't expect to have floods up there like that,
Right. Well,
of
we
20
don't.
feet of water.
We're at 10,000 feet, so we don't get floods. We have snow.
But they got it in the mountains in Georgia, North
Yeah. Oh,
Carolina,
yeah.
and that's was in a coastal region. And talk about how these things are being taken care of. What is really going on right before an election? And
Mhm.
that's another issue of disclosure. So we have many levels of wanting to know, if you're a curious person, what on earth is happening here.
Because of everything that's happening, one of the things I'm always talking to my students is you have to find your 0 point within. You've got to
Yes.
go in, you've got to anchor, because everybody listening or watching, you are going to be the people that other people are looking to. You're going to be the ones that have the answers. You're going to be the ones that's able to step up to the plate and say, this is what's happening, or maybe even teach somebody, some type of a grounding technique, or explain to them in real terms what's happening on this planet. Because I just don't think that a lot of people are going to be ready for everything that's coming. There's going to be hundreds of thousands and millions that are, don't get me wrong, but there's still some people that are struggling to wake up. They still believe the government's here to help. They still believe that their doctor is God. They still believe all of these things that are the old paradigm thought patterns. Now, don't get me wrong, the government helps a lot. And don't get me wrong, doctors do help, but you know what I'm talking about. They have not yet begun that questioning process. And I think, the most beautiful thing about what happened in 2020 was it gave people an opportunity to question. It gave them an opportunity to sit back and say, no, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Or, gosh, I never thought about that before. So when we have these beautiful awakenings that are beginning to occur, we have to be ready. And not everybody, even if they awakened, they're still going to have questions. So you guys out there are the ones that's going to be providing the answers. So I encourage you to really, drop inside, anchor yourself. So when the storm comes, you're going to be rooted and you're going to know who you are. You're going to know what your beliefs are so that you can be the strong ones for everyone who has the questions.
That's so true. That's why we walk around and say, these are the times for which we were called.
Yeah.
And 2020 on up has really refined many of us, like that awakening has happened. And some people are coming out of massive brainwashing, which has occurred since childhood, to really get that they're not even the same person that they were,
Right.
20 years ago, that we've changed and transformed. But it's an inner job. This is all an inside job.
Yeah.
Even though it's stirring up in the energy field around us, and how we all handle it and respond to it is going to determine, I think, the outcome for you and for the rest of us, the planet, because we are that intertwined.
Yeah. So, Dr. Joan, I'd like to give people a chance, 2 minutes, not 5, 2 minutes each, if you want to share something.
Oh, yeah.
About what we've been talking about, because everybody has a voice, everybody can contribute. So I always like to keep this dark spot over here. So if you have any questions, let's go ahead. You can raise your hand, go down to the bottom of the screen, hit your reactions button so that I know who has a comment that they would like to make. No one? Where did Stone go?
Up, there's a hand, Patty.
All right.
Now, Patty, you've been around for a long time. You've seen a lot of changes on this planet.
That'd be true, yes. Yep. I hope to be around for a few more yet, but we'll see what happens.
That's right.
Yeah. What I did, well, first of all, I show you this hat here. This is from the high school I went to. And there's the motto down there. As a man thinks, so shall he be. It's exactly what you said, Dr. Joan, wasn't it?
Yeah, yes, you're confirming it.
So I can't say I didn't know it 50 odd years ago, but I never thought to follow it. A bit different these days. Now, but beyond that, the first subject you came up with was about the solar flares.
Mm-hmm.
And they are obviously very important, but there's something going on with our magnetic field which protects us from solar flares that nobody wants to talk about, but it's happening. Right. And what the facts are is that the diminishing of that magnetic shielding protection began in about 1700, and by 2000, that's 300 years, it diminished 10%. But now the Europeans have got three identical satellites up there 24/7 monitoring the changes in the magnetic field on Earth. Right? And that's what affects the magnetic shield, because as the magnetic fields change, that's what's diminishing the shielding effect. Now, the experts will tell you, and I've read it I've Googled it up, that in years gone by, millions of years gone by, the Earth has typically not reversed its polarity, it has had a big polarity shift on Earth every 250,000 years. But the last time it happened was about 750,000 years ago. So we're well overdue. And what they are expecting now is we are now working towards another serious polarity shift. And as it goes on and our magnetic shielding becomes weaker and weaker, we will just get a lot more heat, which is what's actually causing this global warming thing. It's not the carbon, it's because there's so much more, there's billions of tons of energy coming in from the sun. Every time it has a flare or whatever, it's there. And that's why you're now seeing the aurora borealis and the one down the south, end of the world, Australis, they're now being seen at locations closer to the equator than you were before.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up, because now that gives people a little bit more information that they can research. So thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Cindy.
Okay, there's the unmute. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Joan. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of changes going on. Some of it, the Earth is going through changes, and yet the plates are moving, and some of it, Gaia is creating herself, and some of it, maybe certain technologies that certain people have could be entertaining certain things to happen in certain areas. Yeah. Okay. So I have another thing to bring up. What do you think of there's a lot of talk about our grid being affected. The electric grid being affected by a certain country or two that could affect our grid for a long period of time, and protecting ourselves with generators. What do you think of that? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of speculation about a lot of things for many, many years. And I think that just as much as these things can be used for the negative, they also can be used for the positive. And we just don't know how bad things might have been had we not had certain types of protection, which is kind of what Patty's talking about. So, I mean, there's so much out there, until we know exactly, the intentions, which who can know the intentions of everyone? We just have to sit back and speculate. So for me, it's a thing of, just grounding within yourself, asking your guides what is true for you, because I'm going to tell you, everybody's reality is different. Okay. And so I choose to focus on the highest timeline. Maybe something's happening over here, but the more that we put our attention over here, the less we're putting it up here. So for me, I always want to focus on my highest timeline, and whatever happens here, just let it happen here, because this is where I live.
That's a very good point, because my point, the thing that I wanted to bring attention to is there's the matrix, and then there's the intention, creating your own reality.
Mm-hmm. Right. There is a false matrix that's put in place, but the false matrix also has a lot of positive. I mean, I talk about breaking through the false matrix all the time. And, it was put in place eons ago. But guess what? That false matrix has been taken down. The piezoelectric field is no longer being permeated with those types of frequencies. However, humanity, because it was being permeated for hundreds of thousands of years with these frequencies, now carry that genetic code. Again, my belief is when we spiritually awaken, we override that. And then we have the choice. Are we going to focus our attentions here, drop into concern, drop into worry, drop into fear about who's doing what, or maybe whoever is, I don't care. I'm going to focus up here. I'm going to put 100% of my attention on the light and on the positive, and that's all that I can do, because then I tap into that organic matrix. I tap in to that 5D energy, and then we anchor that onto the planet. So I encourage everybody listening to this to do the same, because as we anchor these high vibrational frequencies, we're then putting that out into the collective consciousness of humanity. And as the collective consciousness rises, more and more light begins to permeate throughout the entirety of the field. And when that shift gets high enough, that's when we move into new earth. So maybe they are, maybe they're not, quite frankly. I'm not focusing on that, because then you have to look at all of the fear, all of the concern, all of the 3D worries. And I just want to cut those ties.
That's a really good answer, Sheila, because I think I was on the fence 50-50. I want to focus.
Let's put it all, let's put 100% up here, Cindy, because you're a very powerful manifester. So let's help create the reality that we want to live in and not worry about what we're releasing.
Thanks. Yeah. I was like, take precautions, but focus there.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about the 50-50.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Important.
Okay.
What else?
Did somebody pop on?
You can't take sides in a round world. Aha.
I like that.
That's very profound, Jude.
That is great.
You cannot take sides in a real, and the truth is, taking sides isn't always the best place to be anyway, because what happens to our ability to be neutral and to not engage? Although we do need to know what we stand for. So, we need to know, do we stand for the light? Do we stand for the dark? Do we stand for supporting people? Like, what is it you stand for? Not necessarily which side, because these days side means right or left, or that you're up or down. And we can be many things. I don't know. I'm a Pisces. I could be inside out at the same time. I can be upside down and right side up simultaneously. So I can be right and left.
Right.
So this whole thing of dividing us according to race, color, and creed is so arbitrary, when a human could be so many things.
Yeah.
Could feel feminine one moment, and the next time you go, God, I have so much male energy running in me. Like, we are that bipolar. We have all of it within us.
So one of the things I'll just encourage everybody as we continue to progress through this year is, you can hear a lot of things. Just kind of let it flow through you. Don't attach to it. Don't allow it to get stuck in your own personal field, within your own matrix. Okay. Put your focus, decide what you want. If you could wake up tomorrow and have your ideal world, what would that look like for you? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever decided, hey, this is what I want for me? And then if you have, how long do you hold on to it? Till the phone rings, till you go to the grocery store, till you have to pay $1 zillion for gas. I mean, when do you lose that thought? When does it lose? So I want to encourage you, create the reality that you want and live it as if it has already happened. Put all of your attention and anchor it into this reality, because that's really all we can do. There's so much out there. We could drop into fear. We could drop into worry. I used to have a whole lot of more of the conspiracy type programming that I did. And then I got to thinking about it. It's like, you know what? I'm part of the problem. Here I am focusing on all of this stuff, all of these things that have negatively impacted people's lives. And believe me, they're horrific. But it's like, I'm putting my energy there. Why? When we don't stand for something, why do we support it with our energy? And even if something is going on and you're like, oh my gosh, that is horrible, and you pick up the phone, you call your friend, oh, these things are horrible, these things are horrific. Guess what? You are part of that problem. You're anchoring it into this reality. Just by talking about it, you're putting your intention into it. Right. And it's just part of being human. We all naturally do that. But I'm really trying to catch myself when I'm thinking about the negative to say, oh, wait a minute, have to shift my thinking. And I'm constantly working to do that. And so for me, a lot of times people come in and they're telling me stuff that's going on. And I'm just kind of like, I have to squint because I'm like, what? What are you talking? Not in my world. That stuff's not happening here. So we can create our own reality. We can create the highest and best timeline. As these dimensions, as these timelines begin to come together, decide which one you want to anchor to.
Good point. Very good point. To be one of the chosen ones, we must choose. To be on a positive timeline, we must choose. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that you're all here tonight. It all has to do with our consciousness. We came here together for this very moment of time.
Yeah. And we're all putting our energy into creating this container. And Cindy, I loved what you brought up and how you're sharing about these things that's going on, because it gives us an opportunity for choice. So just decide what you want to choose for you and create it and anchor it in your everyday life. Joan, I got a feeling this is going to be a fun month.
And we get to be together all month.
Yeah.
That should be very interesting. And this is a fun month. First of all, we're in a in-between zone. Absolutely. This whole month, everything is almost on pause, but extremely active. Through this election time, people are in hyper vigilance about this, that is a 3D reality that is happening. And we are learning how to live a higher vein on a 3D planet.
Right.
So that we can live that best life.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want people to think I'm saying stick your head in the sand. We obviously have to have our eyes open and be aware, but we can choose every moment how we want to respond to the things that's happening. And so thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Thanks for, helping to create this container, Joan. It's wonderful to have you. I'm excited to have Victoria next week. And so do some of the research. Patty gave us a lot of great information. Cindy brought up a lot of great information. We had this great conversation. Check it out for yourself. See what you believe. See where you step into the story or where you step out. Okay? All right, everybody.
So well said. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone who's here. It's been such a long time since I've been online like this with you, and it just feels so juicy to have a cosmic conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And speaking of cosmic conversations, you are listening to Cosmic Conversations right here on the Conscious Awakening Network. So thank you guys for joining us, for listening, for watching, for the replays, and thanks for all your great emails that you've been sending me and all the stuff on Facebook. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. And until we are back together again, namaste. Mwah. Much love, everyone, and have a beautiful and blessed week. So good night, everybody.
Yep, may be on a great timeline.